Coming up in this week's episode, I have a very controversial opinion about fawn response.
Oh, okay. Do you think it's a made-up one?
Welcome to The Liberation Effect with me, your host, Helen Villas. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Liberation Effect. Today, I'm joined by Louise, who has come to talk to me about understanding how her childhood might be affecting how she reacts to things now. She wants to look at the idea that maybe CPTSD and ADHD are overlapping and how she can stop sleepwalking through life. Louise, how does that sound? Did I give you a summary well enough?
Yes, you 100% did. Yeah,
Excellent.
I think the key is I had a childhood very similar to a lot of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the last 3 years, I've put a lot of changes in place, thanks to yourself and other creators that have made this sort of content, done a lot of self-learning, a lot of self-development. And it's brought me to a point where I am setting boundaries and I feel like my eyes are opened more to it.
Right.
However, I do feel like, especially now with my mum particularly, I feel like I am potentially now the toxic one. I think in my email I sent you, I put, "You are not the problem," and then I put, except maybe I am now. Because I feel like, you know, my mum is, by hook or by crook, she is respecting-ish the boundaries. She's doing what I'm asking. I think she knows that I'm serious. And it's almost as if I want her to mess up so that I've got a tangible excuse to cut her off. It's almost like I'm a little bit self-sabotagey. There's that vibe very much.
Right.
And I'm a little bit like, I am now, you know, I'm saying you need to do this, this and that. She is doing that, but I'm still just like so angry.
Yeah.
So I think it's unpicking that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, while I have got an audience with you, I did want to explore the link between ADHD type or neurodivergent as a whole symptom, not symptoms. That's not the right
Traits.
word. Traits. Thank you. Traits, and how this may link to chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, which I feel very impostery saying that I believe I have, because we all go into that minimizing. Oh, was it that bad? Was it that bad? Could I really have that? But I do believe I am struggling with that, and it does sort of show itself in ADHD type behaviors that people pick up on and ask me. Professionals have asked me, "Do you have an ADHD diagnosis?"
Right.
So while I had the expert of all things trauma and ADHD related,
my reaction to that word, sorry. Okay, so
I thought, why not explore that?
Well, absolutely. And so these are really important things. I'm going to just slightly correct you. It's complex post-traumatic.
Sorry, what did I say?
No, you said chronic, which I thought was really interesting, actually. So
Freudian.
Slightly Freudian.
Yeah.
But also, yeah, really telling in a way. So let's go back to the initial thing of mum is, and the word you used was, I think you said respecting-ish. Respecting-ish. And it was the ish that gave me, if you go back and watch the video, people will be able to see me kind of go, Like, if you watch a little micro expression of some description where I react to the ish. Could you just expand a bit on the ish?
Sure. So it's the most, I think, I'm an only child as well, so it's important to say. So I think there's been a lot of enmeshment, a lot of parentification, a lot of substitute spousing from me, especially through my adult life. I've very much taken on a parent role for her, like a young carer role. That was told when I was a young teenager. You know, she said to me, "You are my young carer." Like I've told everybody, "You're my young carer." So I think that kind of has been a theme that's running in sort of adult years as well, even post having my own children. It's been like having a slightly more responsible extra child that can,
Is is she disabled?
So when I was around 13, 14, we
Mm-hmm.
came out of she came out of one of her relationships, and we moved areas, and she came under a new GP, and that GP diagnosed her with bipolar, borderline personality disorder.
Oh,
I
sorry, a
think,
GP.
well, no, sorry, the GP referred her to
Oh,
psychiatric
right, okay.
services.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
yeah.
No, no, I was just about to go,
Who
hang on a minute.
I think,
That's
yeah,
okay.
no, that's right. No, so the
Okay.
GP was the catalyst that sort of said,
Right.
I think you need some more specialised help. Before this, she'd been largely unmedicated, just thought she was suffering with, I think it was called back then, manic depression. It's not a
Right.
term that's used now, but,
No.
and they sort of sent her to a psychiatrist who diagnosed her with bipolar, borderline personality disorder, OCD, depression, anxiety. And then following this, it was sort of like, that became like my responsibility then, it felt.
Mm.
So, that's kind of been an overrunning theme. And it wasn't until I had my third child that I
Mm-hmm.
suddenly realised I'm on my knees. This is really fucking hard. Sorry,
Mm.
this is
No,
really,
swear away. It's fine.
okay, fine.
No, don't.
I
You're with
just
me.
got, okay, fine.
That's
It's
fine.
really hard. And all of a sudden, I realised I haven't got any relationships around me, partly through my
Mm.
own fault, partly through my own fault. I haven't got anybody around me that supports me. I had a lot of really lovely friends, but I never allowed them to support me, which I am growing,
Wait,
getting there, asking for help, trying. Yeah.
hang on.
So,
You said partly my own fault. Can you do
yeah. Well, I
why?
think because I would never allow myself to be vulnerable with people, I'd always be the one that was helping, the one giving, and I never asked for anything in return. I never accepted any help offered because there was that sort of hyper independence, like, don't be a burden on people, don't take people's help because they won't want to help you, you can't give, all of that sort of stuff, which I'm now unpicking and I'm a lot
Mm.
better. But with my
Mm-hmm.
mum, it was sort of like all of a sudden I was asking her, I even said to her, like, I need you to be a mum now. And there's been, I've been told I've been spiteful. I've been told I'm being horrible. I've been told I hate her. It seeps out of me. I can't even give her eye contact. I obviously have a problem and I need to sort out that problem. This has been in response to me setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's probably right in a lot of it. Like, she probably is right. I can't look at her. I'm so dysregulated when I'm around her. I'm so snappy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where it leads back to let's say the problem, the issue that I've got, in that I think now through all this, I've become the toxic one.
Or what's the other alternative?
That the years of trauma,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so angry, and I'm never going to get accountability from her, and I'm never going to get any apology or any ownership. So I don't know how to move forward from that though.
Well, because what's really interesting is you described saying to her, I need you to be a mum now.
Yeah.
But then for her to be the mum, you've been the one that's had to tell her what boundaries have to be in place and how she gets to interact with you and how she gets to be with you. And therefore are still doing all the emotional labor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
You're right. You are
right.
right. Yeah,
And at the beginning, when I asked, when I kind of did our summary and you said, yeah, it's this thing of she's sort of respecting ish the boundaries and I'm almost the toxic one because I'm kind of almost looking for her to cross them so I can.
yeah,
And I don't know if you didn't use these words, but the words that I have translated them into is justify going no contact.
yeah, yeah.
You
That's
don't want to
exactly
be
it.
in
No,
relationship with her.
I don't. And I think what else is that I actually don't really like her as a person. We're very
Hmm.
different. We have very different values. So I do challenge her a little bit on those because I have 3 children. If I didn't, I probably wouldn't. But some of the stuff she says, I'm like, no, I'm going to challenge you on that because I don't want my kids to grow up thinking that is our family value. So
Right.
then I think she probably feels like, God, like when we're together, you can't look at me, you're cold, you're offish. Like when I do say things, you jump down my neck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I do feel that I'm doing that. And I actually don't think it's fair to either of us. But
I
I,
agree. I
I,
agree. There's a point at which it's unfair on you both, right?
yeah, but I feel like I don't feel like I can go no contact because she lives 2 minutes around the corner, so I would risk bumping into her
Mm-hmm.
anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's also my children. Like my children have obviously grown up, and especially when my 2 oldest ones were young, we were very
Mm-hmm.
enmeshed, so they were very close to her. So I kind of feel like it would be punishing them if I were to make that decision.
How old are they
Um,
now? Do you mind me asking?
no, not at all. 11, 8, and 3.
11, 8, and 3.
Mm,
Okay. There was something you said then that I thought was utterly fascinating, was that if it wasn't for the fact I had children, I wouldn't challenge her.
mm, yeah.
Your
That doesn't
needs are
really
not,
link. That doesn't link
well,
to what I've just said, does
well,
it?
it's just this idea that you're only allowed to meet your needs on behalf of someone else. Like you're not allowed.
Yeah.
You talked about in relationships not asking for help and not being a burden, and the hyper independence, also the avoidance of obligation in that if someone
Mm,
does something for you, what are you going to have to pay them back with?
yes.
What are they then
And
entitled to
yeah,
from you? And then I hear this. I really hear my needs are not important,
yeah.
that I have to suffer this relationship that wounds me and, as you said, her because of your frustration and anger. And when I'm saying that, there's no blaming or shaming. It's
No,
really
no, I hear it.
in that. Okay, that you're still not allowed to meet those needs because your children have relationships. She's only 2 minutes around the corner. You might bump into her. I mean, I'm assuming that's the same now anyway. And
Yeah,
and yet, if she is this demanding and this, dependent, that's going to be going towards the children too.
yeah. I think she hasn't been as bad in the last 3 years since I've been putting the boundaries in place. So how it's kind of come down is that I don't ask her for anything, so therefore she doesn't ask me for anything. So it's very interesting how you just picked up on that sense of obligation and what I
Mm,
would owe if I accepted help, because that is how I was raised and that is how it's been. So,
right.
like a few years ago, she wanted me to go with her to get her tyres done on her car. And I had 2 small kids in tow. And I was like, Mum, you can go get your tyres done. I don't need to come with you. Oh, well, I'm only asking for a little bit of help. And actually, if you don't come with me, then I won't have your kids anymore. She doesn't now anyway. She doesn't now anyway. This
Wait,
is
so
going back. That's what she said. If you don't come with me to get my tyres done on my car, I only need a little bit of help. Well, don't bother asking me to have the kids then, because if you're not going to help me, I'm not going to help you.
so every bit of help is transactional, but
Yes.
it's not just a transactional thing, it's a complete withdrawal
Yes.
of
Of
any
yeah.
support.
Yeah. So then it came down to the fact that me and my husband made the decision, right, we're not going to ask her to have the kids anymore because it's actually not worth it. Because then it's all
Sure.
the time I'm at her beck and call, or I feel that
Mm,
I am. So we don't use her for childcare at all now, which is how we've managed that. But this is how it all came about quite recently because I had a change of job and financially we were really struggling, and it looked like I was going to have to take on some hours where I'd need some childcare. And
mm,
I thought, you know what, the last 3 years it's been a bit better, you know, maybe I can say to her, like, I really need your help. Maybe she'd be a bit more maternal, you know. So I did that and I asked her, and it was almost within hours, the phone call started again. Oh, my car's been scratched. How do I do this? How do I do that? Oh, what does this light mean on my dashboard? And
mm.
I reacted in a really, what's the word? My brain has gone where it's not. So I reacted in a massive way, basically. I sort of
Right.
was like, I don't know, mum. I don't know what that light on your dashboard means. It's not the same car as mine. I'm not a mechanic. So then I ended up having to message her. Well, I didn't have to, but I was very brave. And I said, look, the reason I overreacted, there's the word. The reason
Okay.
I
Ooh.
overreacted,
Oh. Okay.
the reason okay.
Overreacted.
Well,
Okay.
the
I'm just,
reason
let me
I
just write that
feel,
down.
yeah, the reason I
Overreact.
feel that I overreacted just at you asking what a light meant on your bloody dashboard and I went mental is because this because of the transactional nature, because I feel I've asked you for help and now you're back asking me for help and it spins my head out. And then that's when I got back a message, you need to sort yourself out, you've got problems, it's not my problem, it's yours, you need to sort yourself out. And that's when I was like, I'm never going to get the accountability I want. So the grey rocking / yellow rocking has been how I've been managing it, but it makes me feel like a toxic person.
Okay. Tell me about that bit. Why does it make you feel toxic to be grey rocking / yellow rocking?
Because I just feel like I'm being mean. I'm never messaging her, she's always messaging me. When I reply, I just say, oh, yeah, we're all fine, nothing to report. I don't go into any details about my life because it gives her, she likes to know everything about everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't, yeah, she likes to know every single thing. So I don't go into everything. I just keep everything very light. It's very light. It's very breezy. And that's how I'm managing it. But because I never message her, because I feel that I'm abandoning her after, I don't know. I'm an only child. She doesn't have a partner. She lives alone. And I feel like I'm just being horrible. And I'm doing it because I want her. I don't know. I feel like I'm almost trying to get a reaction so that I can cut her off.
Yeah, it sounds like you feel like you need a big enough reason.
Yeah, I do. So that I can justify it to her and justify it to others. And this is where it gets a bit deep, which is I know what you're here for, where I feel like I constantly I really struggle to self-validate. I really struggle to self-validate.
Louise, I'm going to check something in. How are you feeling right now, in this moment, right this second?
Shamey.
Say again?
Shamey.
Shamey.
Yes.
Are you feeling guarded? Like,
No, I don't feel
okay,
guarded. I
good.
feel ashamed of myself and I feel like yeah, I don't know.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
talk to the shame. What's it trying to tell you? What's it saying that you are?
spiteful.
Spiteful.
Yeah,
It's a nasty word.
that's a word that's been used. And when I cut down on contact or when I feel like I'm abandoning her, I always go back to that spite. It feels like I'm being spiteful.
Spiteful. Tell me what the word spiteful means to you.
Just a horrible person doing stuff, selfish person doing something just to think of their own needs, to be horrible to other people, just to do it, just to
Mhm.
be mean,
So,
hurting people for the sake of it.
willfully hurting people just because they want to.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing?
No, I know it's not what I'm doing. I know it's not what I'm doing.
It's okay.
I'm
I'm just
just,
checking. I'm
yeah,
just checking. And because even if you said yes to that question, it's okay.
yeah. No, I know.
I mean,
Yeah. Sorry, I
no,
keep
no, I was
interrupting
just going
you.
to say, no, you're okay. I was just going to say, I mean, it's not okay to willfully hurt people, is what I wanted to
No.
just put a
Yes,
caveat
yes,
in there. That it's,
yeah.
but it's the understanding of you, everything you're telling me is about protection. Everything you're saying to me is, I don't want her in my life, but I feel like I'm not entitled to not have her in my life. And then you've told me that me putting in boundaries, me saying I'm not giving you all the things you demand and you feel that I'm obliged to give you, is me actually being actively mean to you, right?
Mm,
Because the narcissistic parent, the toxic parent, will take a boundary as a personal attack,
yeah.
a withholdal of privacy as evidence of secrecy and manipulation. And instead of respecting it, they use words like spiteful,
Yeah.
mean, selfish, entitled, greedy, all those things that they in fact are themselves. They project
Yeah.
their own thing onto you. And so when you're putting in a boundary, you feel like you're being mean because you've been told it is. It's
Yeah.
not mean to put a
Yeah.
boundary in. If someone reacts to your boundary with you're being mean to me, what they're saying is, I want the right to be able to have access to everything that you are saying you don't want me to have access to. I
Yeah.
don't care how my presence in your life hurts you. I just want what I want, regardless of how that impacts you.
God, you've hit the nail on the head. That last bit, especially.
Okay.
That's how it is, and that's how it's always been.
Full access.
Yeah, and she's. I'm the only one. I'm the only one.
You're the
It's just
only
me.
one. So all her emotional well-being depends on you.
Yeah, but I know it
And
doesn't. But that's how I was
you can know that
raised. Yeah,
logically, right?
but
But
in your heart, you
emotionally,
don't feel it. Yeah, that's exactly. And that everything you're saying, I know it in my head, and I've done so much work to become so much more self-aware that I know what you're saying. But it's like you say, it feels like a lump in my throat.
okay.
It's just the God, burden is a horrible word, but that's the word. It's
The
the burden.
burden of her.
Yeah, and knowing
Okay.
that I'm the only one. I'm an only child. She hasn't got a partner, no parents, siblings. They're all. I mean, to be fair, I do have empathy for my mum because she did have a really rubbish childhood, and so did her siblings. So they're all off doing their own. My mum's very much a scapegoat. The golden child's gone off. The invisible child's doing her thing, so she hasn't got them for support. So she has some friendships, but they're always very surface level friendships because she can't, as with a lot of toxic people, she can't maintain relationships very well. So her friendships that she does have are quite surface level and also a bit bitchy and toxic.
So it's your responsibility to
Yeah,
provide.
and I think she does feel entitled to the children. She calls them, she says, and it really, really, really irks my husband. He hates it, but she always says, "How are my babies? How are my babies?"
Ooh,
About my
that gave me
children, an
that gave
ick,
me an ick. Mm-hmm.
and it gives him an ick. He hates it. He
Oh, I'm not
absolutely hates it.
surprised. And so
But it's like,
has she been asked not to do that anymore?
no, because it doesn't bother me as much because I just feel like, well, sure, you feel it's I don't know
Louise,
because
finish that sentence. I just feel
like I get that they're the only thing she's got a lot,
okay.
so I'm like,
And
okay,
so what happened? What's happening there?
I'm allowing her to do that because
Because
over how my husband feels because I feel guilty and I feel and
what's
I
being
get
weaponized?
guilt. I don't know.
Empathy.
Empathy. Yes, thank you.
No, you're okay.
Yeah,
The level of, because this is where you could get yourself in a dangerous space in your
yeah,
relationship, is that you're prioritizing your mother's needs over your husband's.
yeah. And that has
And
happened. That has the amount of Christmases we've had where there's been such bad feeling, ill feeling between me and my husband because my mum ramps it up at Christmas. She ramps it up at Christmas. And I've always allowed that to happen because I feel like, oh well, if not, she's just got Christmas on her own. And while I know that's her choice and it's her life and she's an adult, it makes me feel awful. So
because
a lot of
what does it say about you as a person?
that I'm mean and horrible if I don't, that I'm letting her be
Okay,
alone.
all right. How old do you feel in that moment when you're feeling mean and horrible?
About 12.
Okay, what happened when you were 12?
Interesting. interesting. Sorry.
No, go on. I'm sitting here with bated breath, but I'm trying not to show it.
I can't work out that my brain's just really going 19 to the dozen to figure out how it linked. But when
well,
I
just
was
tell me what happened, and then
okay, it's a bit of a trigger warning, but
okay.
I at for covert sexual abuse
Okay.
at around 12, around probably a little bit younger, 11, 12. There was an episode of me being in a hotel room with my mum and her partner where there was some sexual contact going on that I was
Right.
presumed asleep, but I was not asleep, which is I feel so much anger about that now as a mother. I feel a lot of anger about that. I can't work out how it links to what we were talking about, but because that happened when I was 11, 12, that's why I all of a sudden went, oh, interesting.
Okay.
So I don't know if
just
like I
pause
said,
for a
I'm not.
moment. I'm
Yeah,
going to pause you. I'm going to pause you. Tell me, as you're thinking about that happening when you're 11, 12,
yeah,
what's happening in your body?
stiffness and
Okay.
lump in the throat and feeling in trouble.
So stiffness, lump in the throat, in trouble. What are the emotions? Can you name them?
Disgust.
Disgust. Anything else?
I guess anxiety. The reason I was anxious is because I heard it going on and I ran to the toilet and slammed the door. And then I locked the door. And then my mum came to the door and said, Louise. And I opened the door and I pretended that I was on the toilet. And I said, sorry, what? And she said, you know what? So then I had to quickly pretend to be using the toilet to go to the door, to open the door. And she was like, oh, you're on the toilet. I was like, oh, yeah, that's all. I was just going to the toilet. So it was, I knew that I was in trouble for being awake, I suppose. And as a mother now, I feel so much anger for it.
Let's stay there.
Yeah.
I get why you're saying as a mother now, but let's try and stay in that space just for a little bit, if that's okay. Can you
Yes.
tolerate
Yes.
it? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can. Yeah.
So you said it was really interesting. You said disgust and then you said anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But an 11-year-old would have said, what do you think?
Fear.
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 Terrified.
Fear. Because it was just a horrible thing to hear. And then the fear of then you know what you've been bad by just reacting.
Oh, you've been bad just by reacting.
Yeah. I think that's where that is, because like I said, I mean, running away from that situation is so normal. Like it's good that I got myself out of that.
I mean, amazing. Because
But
you instead of freeze or fight, you flight. You flew.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, which would have been a big deal, I think, for me, because I did a lot of my go-to was fawning and still is now.
I have a very controversial opinion about fawn
Oh,
response.
okay. Do you think it's a made up
Mm,
one?
mm,
Okay. No, I'm here for it.
no, not made up. Not made up. More that it's not a trauma response, that it's
Okay.
a choice that we make, whether consciously or
Okay.
subconsciously. And the reason I think that is because it's secondary to fight, flight, freeze.
Right.
Right. And so, normally what will happen is actually we go freeze and then
Yeah.
go, okay, I'm going to fawn
Okay.
because I'm going to
Yeah,
make
I
this
can.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a bit controversial. I haven't actually spoken about it on any
No,
platforms yet. And I'm like,
I feel that really speaks to me. That
oh,
really speaks to
good.
me because I
Because,
do, no, I really do think that that's right. I think that you're bob on.
oh, good. Well, and the reason I think that it's really important, and actually it's something I'm going to be writing about this week, is because I think that's empowering. But when I've discussed it with other therapists, it's been reacted to quite badly in that it could be quite shaming of people. Whereas actually, I think
Do you
if
think
you,
so?
well, I think it depends where someone is in their journey, perhaps.
Yeah,
But me saying to you, actually, this is a choice that you make. There may be not a level of awareness around the choice, but now you know it's a choice. You can then decide whether or not to use it. It's not that you can't
yeah,
use it. It's just let's take own. It's the same with eating chocolate. There's nothing wrong
yeah,
with eating chocolate, but if you say, I've got no choice in it, you're disempowering yourself. No, you have got, I want to eat chocolate. I'm going to eat chocolate. There's no big deal
yeah,
about me eating chocolate, but as long as I own it. But the minute I go, I can't help myself because I want to eat chocolate, well, then you've just surrendered all your power and all your
yeah.
autonomy.
I
And the
agree.
same, right?
I
So,
actually agree because I can feel it's a conscious choice for me to do that.
yeah.
It's like a compulsion. Don't get me wrong. It's like a
Yeah.
compulsion. But if you think about the moments you're going to fight, flight, or freeze, you
hmm
cannot stop yourself doing that. I don't care what
No.
anyone says. You
Yes,
cannot.
you can't. You can't.
Whereas with the fawn, like last week, there's just this is just such a silly example, but basically, another mum offered to take my son to school. I said, "Oh, thanks. He'd love to go with you as a treat. Amazing."
Mm.
I forgot. I was driving down the road and she came biking past me and I rolled down my window and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And then she was like, obviously a bit pissed off because, I get it. And then she was like, "Oh, it's okay. Like, it's okay." Anyway, I was in spiral mode. I was like, what
hmm
can I do? What can I do to make things better? I sent her a voice note and then I got a grip of myself. I was like, "Louise, you're fawning. You are fawning and you don't have to do that. You've apologized. You've said you forgot. You're human. People forget. She's a mum. She gets it. People forget all the time
Amazing.
and you're okay." But that's why sorry, that was such a silly example, but
No,
going
it's a
back to
brilliant
what
one.
you were saying, it was my choice to do that. And I have this thing where, a few years ago when I started this journey, I thought to myself, I've got no choice. I have to have my
Yeah.
mum in my life. I
Yeah.
have to have her because she's my responsibility. But my brain is slowly coming round to the fact
hmm
that I do have a choice, but
hmm
then it's like that's going to really hurt her. So it's owning those choices, isn't it?
It is.
Mm.
And it's also where your needs are more important than hers
Yeah.
because she has
That
taught
oh
you.
God, that made me feel really awful.
Oh, what happened? Tell me.
When you said my needs are more important than hers,
hmm
I felt a bit sick.
Okay. It sounds like it felt more than a bit sick. It
Yeah,
sounded like a gut punch.
yeah, that's how it felt. Proper gut punch. The have putting my needs before hers would feel horrific. That would feel
Putting these before her.
selfish.
Because
I would be so selfish.
why?
Because her needs matter just as much as mine.
Just as much?
Well, no, well, I've been raised to that they're more important than mine.
Yeah. So the
However,
conditioning has
yeah,
been what's happening for you now? You're like covering your face.
I
You're
am
looking, you look about 8.
so interesting.
How old do you feel?
I do. I feel like a naughty child. Yeah, I feel about 6, 7, 8. Yeah,
What happened
which
around that age?
um just being emotionally parentified, I think, massively. I remember one of my first memories is going to the toilet and getting tissues to wipe her tears. And she would tell people that. She would say, "Oh, she's so sweet. She would go to the toilet, she'd get tissues, she'd wipe my tears away." Like, what the fuck would you say? Like, what? Why would you tell people that?
Right. And people,
And people would be like, "Oh, yeah, she's so sweet." Like, I think there was just a lot of emotional parentification around that age. And yeah, just, yeah, I suppose that links massively back to what you've just saying about putting her needs above mine, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then I'm really intrigued by it's your earliest memory is getting her tissues from the loo.
Yeah, yeah. And
So how
wiping
old
her
do you think you
tears.
were in that? How old do you think you were at that age?
About
At that
five,
point?
probably five, 4, 5, maybe. I've got no, I've got, and I know this is very common, which is possibly a good gateway into talking about
Mm.
CPTSD. How many?
You nearly got it. You're fine. Let's just pause on this moment.
But I've got I've got very few memories, and a lot of the memories that I do have are stories that she told. So then I'm like,
Okay.
oh, do I actually remember that? Or, but I do, I have visual.
Okay, but when in the visual, is it
Yeah.
bird's eye view or are you looking from your eyes or are you
I'm
watching
looking
from...
from my eyes. I'm looking
Okay.
from my eyes. So I do
Okay.
have visual, but I don't know if I've clung on to those memories because she then retold them as stories, if that makes sense. I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure. You might have done, but
Mm,
mm, just imagine for a minute your 3-year-old
yeah.
seeing you crying and going getting you tissues from the loo and then wiping your tears.
Yeah. I would say to her, you don't need to do that, baby. Mummy's just
Right,
sad, but you
right,
don't need to do that.
right. That is not a child's job.
No.
And it's not that we shouldn't, cry in front of our children. That's absolutely not true. And it's not that they shouldn't see our emotions. It's very important actually to let them see and normalize it. But it's kind of saying you're not responsible at the same time. So don't worry, mummy will be okay. I'm just
Yeah.
feeling a bit sad, so I'm letting it out. It's a really healthy thing to do, and it's a really good thing to do. And reassuring them the whole time, which is really hard when you're feeling shit and like
Yeah.
tearful, but reassuring the child the entire time that you will be okay. It's not their job, but they are still safe even though you are not
Yeah.
okay, right?
Yeah.
That even if if the world blew up right now, you would still be able to protect them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I don't, I can't relate to that feeling. And I think I've always had such a deep, I feel still now, and that links to, when you said earlier about sleepwalking through life, it
Mm,
underpins a lot is loneliness. And I feel very lonely. And I've always had this just feeling in my stomach like a big stone that is like loneliness. And I think it comes
okay.
back from even that age when I used to play on my own because I was an only child, and I used to play and I used to just feel so alone. And I think I think I'd never had what you're saying, that whole, I've always got you. I don't feel that,
Mm,
if anything ever happens in my life, she's the last person I want to tell, because then I have to
okay.
emotionally caretake her as well.
So your emotions, you're responsible for how your emotions impact her as well as how her
Yeah.
emotions impact her.
I was my first child, she had to be there at the birth, and I ended up being run in for an emergency C-section. And the whole time I was going to my husband, is mum okay? Is she upset? Is mum upset? Is she crying? Is she okay? And I'm lying there on a theatre bed.
Louise.
Yeah. So
Interesting. You
it's
said
deep.
she had to be there.
Yeah. She had to, oh, I've got to be there. I've got to see them be born. So I allowed it because that was the headspace I was in back then.
Hang on a
And
minute. Look at where you are blaming and shaming yourself. You're colluding with the shame.
yeah, no, thank you.
She
Yeah, I am.
conditioned you
Yeah,
not
yeah,
to say no. See,
yeah,
as a parent, if either of my children choose to have children, and my daughter, for example, like we'll go with my daughter, if she chooses to have children and wants, my question is going to be, what would you like from me?
yeah.
Now, I can come and stay.
Same.
I can be in the delivery room if you want. I can be away until you're ready and I can wait a month and I will not harass you about seeing the baby. I can just send you the odd text. I can come up and fill your freezer full of food. What do you need?
Mm,
my needs, because of course I'm going to want to be there for every bloody second. Of course I'm going to want to watch, and I can feel really emotional just saying it. My daughter transition into motherhood. Of course I'm going to want to see and be part of that, but that is irrelevant. My want, my desire, my need is not hers to manage. That's for me. What I need to do as her mum is be what she needs, not what I need, right? So your mother had to be there. Even the use of that language shows how strong that conditioning is.
Yeah.
That
Oh God, yeah.
There's no choice in it for you. There was no
That's how I felt.
question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just mum wants it, so it has to happen.
Yeah. Otherwise, she'll be too upset.
So I'm not allowed to say no.
No, I was never allowed to say no.
Okay, so my next question then, that stone of loneliness. One, how it protected you, but two, that loneliness, could it possibly be that you feel that way simply because you've never been seen?
Yeah, probably. That does speak to the fact that I really struggle with lack of identity. And anything about that, like I've done in the past, one of your identity building workshops when you used to them, and anything to do with identity building, I just lap up because I feel like a chameleon. I feel like I can spend a little bit of time with someone, figure out what they want me to be, and I'll be a version of myself that reflects what they need from me so that I can be liked, so that I can be safe.
Safe from?
Being disliked and rejected.
Okay, because if you were, that would mean?
That I was a bad person, I suppose.
So they would get to confirm your value as a human being.
Again, and then it goes back to the seeking validation from others, doesn't it?
Right, yeah. It's really interesting you raised the identity thing because for me, the only way to heal from like narcissistic, toxic emotional abuse is identity building.
Yeah.
It's literally the root of everything. That if you come into the hub, the first thing which is my membership platform, that if you come into the hub, the first thing I'm going to be asking you to do is to start building your identity immediately. If you're scared of rejection, of saying no, have no idea how to trust people, you're not alone, and you don't have to heal alone either. That's what the Hub is for. It's a membership community designed for survivors just like you. Every month, we dive into powerful courses, we hold live calls, and connect in a supportive, understanding space so you can break free from the past and build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Maybe it's time to stop surviving and instead start thriving. Visit jointhehub.ac today using the code POD20 to get £20 off your first month's membership. I can't wait to see you there. Take care. Bye. If you're in therapy with me, we're building identity from the beginning, simply because, A, I don't want you to be in therapy for eons, and because if you build your identity, you build your value system, your belief system. If you build your value and belief system, you build your boundaries. If you build your boundaries, you notice when they are being crossed, you notice when they are compromised, and you notice when somebody refuses to respect them.
Yeah.
And you start being able to know where you can relax and hold and not hold, and things can be let go, and you can give grace or not, whatever it might be. But all of those things come back to having identity. Your fear of rejection dissipates when you have good identity because you know yourself.
Nobody got yourself.
You then start being able to trust yourself if you've got good boundaries. Because I know that if someone crosses my boundaries, I will be able to remove myself from that relationship or that situation. If something is not serving me, I will walk away. Even though it may well hurt me, I know it's better short term than it is long term. And that's not easy. I'm not saying for a second that's easy. But when your identity is built, you get values, beliefs, boundaries. You start trusting yourself because you don't need, it's not about trusting other people. You're no longer scared of rejection because other people don't get to decide your value because you know it intrinsically. You know you're a good person. So
Yeah.
for you to sit and talk to me about that as a part of your difficulty, that is absolutely the crux of you being able to meet your own needs, to
Yeah.
value your own self,
Yeah.
instead of letting other people decide that for you, that you're allowed to meet your own
Yeah.
needs.
It's so interesting. When you were just talking, I don't know what just made me, I was very much absorbing what you were saying,
It's fine.
but
I don't.
I, no, I was, but I just had this sudden light bulb moment, and I don't
Good.
know what sentence made me think it, but it was just like, fuck, Louise, you're not being toxic. You're not being toxic. You're
Yes.
protecting yourself. You're not.
Yes.
I don't. I wish I could. I wish I'd written down what the actual sentence was that made that happen. But you know, when it just kind of washes over you, and I was like, you're protecting yourself and you're doing the right thing for both of you. You're
Oh,
doing. I'm doing the right thing for her as well, because being in relationship where I'm going to keep treating her like this because of all this anger is not
mm,
fair on her, and it's also not fair on me because I'm fucking dysregulated constantly. And then
mm-hmm,
that links to the feeling of dissociation, which means that I'm just not present and in the room for anyone.
mm-hmm.
And I'm actually doing the right thing. I'm actually doing the right thing.
Louise, how do you feel right this second?
Buzzing, to be honest.
I'm buzzing for you. Oh my goodness, what an insight. Because that
Oh
is
my God, please,
exactly it.
please just come everywhere with me forever.
No, Louise, because guess what? Don't see, what did you just do there?
Because I was like, you've done it, but I just did it, didn't
You
I?
bloody did it.
Yeah.
It
No, you're
wasn't me,
right.
you did it.
You are right. You
I
are
was
right.
waffling
No,
about
you weren't.
identity.
You
No,
weren't
it's
waffling.
fine. I'm fine with it. I was talking about identity and trust and boundaries and yada yada. And you allowed yourself to reflect in that like in that sort of speech of how that might be playing out for you, and you allowed the idea that maybe you're not a bad person.
You said something
Maybe.
about, sorry,
Go on.
it
No,
was
go.
when you said something about looking after yourself and having your boundaries and that being sort of caring for yourself. That was where it was, because I was like, that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. And when you listen back to this, when it comes out next week, when you listen back, you'll probably notice which bit it was, you know. And the other thing is that I will be sending you a copy of this to hold for yourself forever because I very much believe that's really important. The
Yeah.
the thing is, Louise, what you have said to me this entire time is I'm not allowed to protect myself. That is what you have been saying all the way through. I'm not allowed to protect myself. It makes me a bad person. That is what you have been conditioned to believe.
Yeah.
And yet, what you also have noticed is by not protecting yourself, there is a ripple effect,
Yeah.
both you, her, your family, everyone around you.
My kids, because
Yeah.
I feel so dissociated,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel, and this is where it links to where I don't think I do have ADHD, even though it's been suggested to me,
Mm-hmm.
is because the ADHD type behaviors, the chaos of it
Mm-hmm.
gets a lot more severe when I'm around her, when I'm talking about her, when I'm doing that work. Like this morning, I was in such a chaotic state because I knew that I was doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think that it's linked to trauma and not ADHD.
Because, well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it sounds like when you talk about her, you might be being triggered,
Mm. Oh,
which would
God,
mean,
constantly. Yeah.
right, well, that in turn would mean that your adrenaline and cortisol are spiking, which would mean more kind of anxious type behavior, like high energy type behavior.
Yeah.
Um, and I wonder, you said it gets worse when you talk about her. What about when you're not? What is it that people see when you're not talking about her that you, or what is it that you experience when you're not talking about her that
Um,
might be ADHD?
it's things like I have very strong hyperfocuses and hyperfixations.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very much like, and I do think this is part of, again, linking back to the trauma. I think this might be part of identity building, or me
Okay.
trying to grasp at that, because all of a sudden there'll be a subject, and all I want to do is learn about that subject. I'll download every audiobook, I'll read everything, I'll constantly go on TikTok looking at things about it, and it's all I want to talk about. And every conversation I have, I will speak about this thing, and then all of a sudden I'm on to the next one, and then it's like
Mm.
gone. That's something
And
I've
what?
always done. And again, hobbies. My loft is full of fucking crochet stuff, cross stitch stuff, animal grooming stuff. I get this thing and I'm like, I'm going to do this now. This is my thing. It's going to be great. I'm going to love it. This is going to be my new life is crochet. And then literally 2 weeks later, my husband's like, I've got to put that in the loft. Oh yeah, would you? Because I don't want to do that anymore. And just things like, he'll always say, if I'm cooking, and I've always done this, if I'm cooking, every pan is out, every
Mm-hmm.
pot is out, every cupboard is open. I'm hitting my head on the cupboard and still leaving it remained open while I'm cooking.
Why
So
do you leave it open?
I don't know, because I'm just busy doing cooking. I can't be closing cupboards. I don't consciously think, oh, the cupboard's open. I don't have that thought. And when I've been in sort of group scenarios, like I was in a sound bath, because hyper focus, sound
Mm-hmm.
baths are my new
Mm-hmm.
thing, right? So I was in my sound bath, and the lady stopped and was just like, "Have you considered that you might be neurodiverse? Have you considered you might have ADHD?" And I was just sort of like, "No." Well, at the time I said it has been suggested to me, but no, I don't think I have. And she was like, just from some of your behaviours and how you're reacting to some of the thing and seeing you in a group setting. So it's just been suggested to me by a few people, not that they're practitioners, but
Mm.
they're the sort of base level behaviours that are all the time. And I do
Right.
speak loads. I speak at a very fast pace,
Mm-hmm.
and my brain jumps from thing to thing. I find it really hard to follow a stream of consciousness. But I do, as I said, it is my opinion that somehow a lot of my behaviours are linked back to hypervigilance, identity seeking, people pleasing. Some of that I think it's linked back to trauma, but the thought that I might have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, I did it, got it
You
right.
did it. Well done. Yeah.
Um, the thought that I might have that, saying it out loud, is making me feel icky, because I'm like, everyone's going to be listening to this thinking, oh God, you don't like what the hell, like,
Well,
and it
who gets
makes
to
me,
diagnose that, Louise?
I mean,
I can't do it. You can't do it. There's a few people listening that might be able to do it, but I mean, like they
I
wouldn't do it
know,
if because they need to assess you. Nobody gets
yeah,
to decide that
no, I know.
unless
I
they're
just think
qualified
I
and
think the suggestion that I might even suggest that I might have it makes me feel really uncomfortable, because it just makes me feel a bit like I want to minimize everything and say it wasn't that bad. And I know that's like a defense thing that I do, but I do believe a lot of my behaviors are linked to that. And I just
okay,
really,
I'm going to pause you and I'm
yes,
going to
please.
ask you two things.
Yes.
What would it mean if it was both?
Mm, I think it would be some validation.
Okay.
I think it would be validation that actually it would be like an external thing saying it's okay that you feel the way you do and behave the way you do.
It would give you
I heard it. I
permission.
heard it. I heard it.
one of my favorite things about doing this is the humor and the brilliant, like you just being like, oh, god damn, I just heard myself say, what did you hear yourself say?
Other people would say it's okay for me to feel traumatized.
I've got permission to say it was bad enough.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, no, okay. Yeah, that was,
Right?
but that is how I feel. I feel like it would
Absolutely.
be,
I get
yeah,
it. I'm like we're laughing, but I totally get it. It is a validation. It is a thing. Also, growing up in these systems, when you have anything, quite often it's just so disregarded and minimized and dismissed that you have to fight
yeah,
really hard to be believed over anything.
yeah,
And then that means that we feel like we need more evidence. See, I can prove that I've got this thing because I don't know if you know this, but when I got diagnosed with ADHD, I had three assessments because I was convinced I had tricked them all into doing it. Right? I had three assessments, right? One psychologist, two psychiatrists,
okay,
separate, obviously individuals,
yeah.
um, apart. And even then, I was a bit like, but I know what's,
I've just
yeah,
tricked
I've just
them. I
tricked
know
them.
what to say. Yeah,
But then what my answer to myself in that is, don't be so bloody arrogant. They
yeah.
are psychiatrists. They know much more than you do. Shut the fuck up and sit down and accept the fact that this is actually real. And
Three
then
of them
when
have now
things,
said the same.
sorry, say again.
Three of them have now said the same thing.
Right, right. So,
Oh my
so it's the thing of, it's really hard to believe, but there also is the validation of three people have assessed me independently and three people have said, yes, you are ADHD, right?
gosh.
And for me, because of not being believed, that does empower me. It gives me a foundation. But as I move further and further on into my kind of having been diagnosed, I don't need all the, I don't need to prove it so much. I know
Yeah.
full well, right? I mean, you can tell as soon as my medication runs out or something. Like it's very obvious.
But is it
So
like it's so it helps you to support yourself?
what's that? Having the
Having
diagnoses?
yeah. Does it give you that
Yeah,
like
it gave
allow
me.
your yeah,
And then it's even things like the hyper focuses. So what you described as like getting really into something and then out, that is 100% something I can totally relate to.
yeah,
And what I used to feel was a huge amount of shame that there would be all these things that I had maybe spent money. Drawing was one for a while. Got really, this is so silly. I got really hyper focused on being able to draw a hyper realistic eye, right?
okay,
and and I went on YouTube and I bought all the sort of pencils and the bits and the things and all the paper, everything you need to be able to draw this hyper realistic eye. And I did it four times, got it good enough, and went, that's it, I'm done.
I'm done with this.
I've
That's
never
so
done it again.
I can
And
relate to that so hard.
right in the past, I feel like I'm going to have to show the hyper realistic eye now.
I really
I,
feel like you should.
Oh God, I might do. But prior to having the diagnosis of ADHD, I would have caught like shame spiraled about the fact that I've spent money on pencils and rubbers, electric rubbers for God's sake, and pens and all these things, and that I'm not even touching them anymore. And then it would have become a should. I should be doing this. I should be like learning more, drawing stuff. I should be doing that instead of what it is now, which is it was good while it lasted, and now I can draw a hyper realistic eye. That's okay.
It's reframing it in
Yeah.
a yeah,
Gives it
okay.
permission to exist for what it was. And this is the really crucial bit, Louise. It allows me to meet the need in the moment and to let it go when I no longer need it.
That's a goal. That's goals.
Right?
Yeah.
All of our conversation today has been about you meeting your needs. Every single last bit of it.
Oh God,
Your
yeah.
needs being important, identifying them, giving yourself permission to have them, connecting with them, and prioritizing them above those of other people, particularly your mother. It's about you giving value to your needs. And
God, no, yeah.
yeah,
No wonder I'm so angry and resentful.
of course, because here's the other part of it. Even with you putting all these boundaries in place, you are still being demanded to manage her feelings. The
Mm,
dynamic hasn't changed at all.
no,
There's no difference to what it was. It just, you think there is because you've put boundaries in and she's sort of respecting-ish the boundaries, but you're still having to put them in. You're still having to ask her to not impact you negatively. You're still telling her what the rules are. You're the one that is putting rules in for the relationship. You're the one that gets the backlash. You're the one that then feels mean and selfish and unkind because you are denying the thing that she demands. Whereas if it was a healthy relationship, you would be celebrated for putting the boundary in, not punished, whether that's self-punishment or external punishment.
wow.
You are still managing her feelings. So of course you are angry.
I'm
And
still the parent. I'm
yeah,
still the parent.
yeah, that is exactly where I was going. You are still parenting her.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Sad. I'm
Tell me about the
feeling
sadness.
sad for how much of my life I've done this.
Okay.
I'm feeling a bit trapped
Okay.
because that that old feeling come back of you haven't got a choice, you've got to do this. But I know that that is a feeling as
Right.
opposed to a
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. And ask yourself, why am I thinking that? Who benefits from it?
Yeah,
What do I, what am I losing? What would it say about me if I was to ignore it? All of,
yeah,
you've got to understand what that thought serves
yeah.
so that you can challenge it. Go on, carry on.
No, I think that summarizes it. To be honest, I think I've just got like quite a deep. I just feel quite deeply sad and quite almost like a nostalgic sadness.
What is the,
Um,
it sounds like a grief.
yeah,
And do you know what the grief is for?
the fact that I haven't been parented.
Okay.
I think
Okay. And that is sad. That's
it's really sad.
devastating.
It's really sad, and yeah, I think sometimes that sadness is what leads me down the dissociation. I think sometimes that's what leads me to the dopamine seeking, the constantly scrolling on my phone, not being present, the sort of feeling of gritting my teeth and getting through instead of actually enjoying my children. And God, this is actually the only part that I've actually felt emotional. Like, I actually think I might cry. But this
Okay.
is what I feel is robbing my children because I'm this, I don't want to say a mess of a person, but this, I don't know, I just wish I'd fucking done all this before I had them. That's how I feel.
Louise, that road, be very, very careful
Okay.
of how you walk down it. Because if you
Okay.
look at that person that back then, before children, with your eyes now and all the knowledge you have now, and you judge her, you are colluding.
Yeah.
You're shaming her for not knowing what she didn't know.
And actually, I probably would never have done this if I hadn't had them.
And it's her shoulders that you stand on. She
Yeah.
survived so you could thrive.
Yeah.
Okay? So before we start shaming our younger selves for not knowing what they didn't know, for tolerating abuse, for enabling abuse even, remember that it's because of them that we stand here now. That
Yeah.
is not something to disregard or take lightly. We need to honour our younger selves and everything that they went through so we could sit here together now to talk like this.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
hear that. Yeah, I do hear. I think I'm gonna, when I listen to this back, I'm gonna need to sit with that a little bit more and think about it a
sure.
little bit more because at the moment I can hear what you're saying, but I can't feel it.
Well, and then I go to looking at feelings. Part of identity building is knowing what your emotional landscape is, what your library lexicon looks like, that you understand what emotions that you have are, what their names are, that they're not the subjective interpretation of your parent or anybody else around you, whether that's me, people, online. It's learning your own library, your own experience of different feelings, okay? And allowing them to exist within you. Because
Yeah.
I wonder, and I would be very surprised if this was not the case, I wonder how triggering emotions are for you simply on the basis of that your emotions got a response or a negative response
Yeah.
from your mother.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So your dissociating is also protection.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a thing of you don't need to be protected anymore.
Yeah. And that's going to come, isn't it? It's not an overnight thing.
No, no, but it's making, again, the active choice. Oh, I notice I'm dissociating. What am I
Yeah.
trying to avoid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just like I did with the fawning. I need to learn to do that, to recognise that as well.
Mm-hmm. And not to shame yourself for doing it. I love
No.
dissociating. Like, it's great sometimes. Like, going off in my own little planet is brilliant. Especially when things are rough. Being able to
Yeah.
disconnect is actually a really brilliant skill sometimes, so that I can maybe process or focus or do whatever it is so that I'm not overwhelmed. But when it becomes out of my control or more permanent or interferes with me being a parent, then I need to really think about what's happening.
Yeah.
What is
I hear
causing that?
that. And I'm grateful for you for saying that as well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Louise,
Yes.
feels like we've covered an awful lot. So
It does. We've been on a roller coaster.
I mean, brilliant. There is one last question that I would like to offer you to reflect on.
Okay.
When you're in the shame spiral, when you're prioritizing mum's needs or trying not to, what would it mean for you not to believe that you were mean? What will you lose? To not believe that you're spiteful or
I'm
shameful
trying to
or
find
awful.
something. If I don't believe that,
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, in this moment right now, I don't believe that. In this moment right now, talking to
Mm-hmm.
you, having the context we've just been through, the conversation we've just
Mm.
had, I don't believe that. I
Okay.
don't believe I'm mean. I just know how it creeps back in.
And how does it protect you to think of yourself that way?
To think of myself as mean.
Yeah, and spiteful and horrible and selfish. How does it protect you?
It means that I'm making her happy, which is means safety.
Okay.
And it means that I'm the problem and I can
Mm.
control that problem and I'm the bad one.
So if you were to not believe that, it means that you have no power over how she behaves.
Yeah, I guess so. But I
And
don't
what
have
does
power. I don't have power over how she behaves anyway. Is
No,
that where
you
you're
don't.
going with this?
Kind of. But I wonder what it would mean if you accept that you have no power
Yeah,
over how she behaves. What does that
yeah.
mean for
I've
the
got to accept.
relationship?
If I accept it, then I just can just fucking just do what I need to do.
Right,
Do
but
that means
then what? What happens to your relationship with her?
oh, it deteriorates, I guess. But
And then what
it's
happens?
shit anyway.
Okay, but then you're talking of logical space. What happens?
Sorry.
No, it's off. No. Why are you apologizing?
Okay, no more sorry.
Okay, good. You said that right at the beginning before we even start. I'm not going to
I
say
know, I
sorry.
know, I know, I know.
But then what happens if you let go of the power, the idea that you can control how she treats you? What happens then? The relationship deteriorates, and then what?
I'm free.
And then what does that mean?
Care for myself.
And then what does that mean?
I'm safe.
And then what does that mean?
I've chosen myself.
And what does that mean?
I'm important.
And what does that mean?
She says as she covers her face
I
and
know.
curls into a little ball.
What does it mean to believe that you're important, Louise?
You're important and you matter as much as everybody else.
And then what does that mean?
That I deserve. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let me ask you.
Yes.
Let me ask you this: if you were to believe that you're as important as everybody else, and that your needs are as important, what does that mean for little you and all the grief and the loss? And what does that mean for your grief?
That she's important and she's cared for too, and she's loved
And how badly
unconditionally.
right, but how badly was she let down?
Yeah, she was really let down.
When we do this, like, and then what, and then what, and then what, and then what,
Yeah.
usually what we're getting, not always, but I use that sort of questioning deliberately because I want to take you right to the bottom of the kind of thought, the ocean of it. And usually what we would find at the bottom of that is that I would have to face the grief of how badly I was treated.
Yeah. And then I can't minimize it.
And then I can't minimize it. And it means I may open myself up to further rejection because if I believe I'm important, that means I'm going to have to make sure other people believe that too. And if they don't believe that, then I'm going to have to lose them. People might reject me because I'm not prioritizing them. I've been taught that relationships are dependent on me prioritizing other people above me.
Yeah.
And so on and so on.
Yeah.
So the cost of realizing that you are and had no power over how she behaves or feels is potentially grief for the past and grief for the future. And that's a lot.
I already can't wait to listen to this back so that I can absorb that a bit better.
Sure.
Because again, it's sitting in my logic space at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to feel that.
Okay. And so then with that, there is one last thing I would love to offer you to take away and reflect on. And that is, are you protecting me from your emotions right now? And if so, why? What the fear is?
Potentially, because the people pleasing wound is very deep.
Mm-hmm.
I want to control your perception of me.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to think positively about me and not to reject me because I know the abandonment wound runs deep. But I do feel like I've had real glimmers in this exchange where I haven't felt that way.
Good. Okay. And I wouldn't expect you to be totally safe. This is a very weird situation anyway.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I'm new. Even though I know you know me from things, I'm still new. I'm still
Yeah.
you know.
Even though I was fangirling, I'm not anymore.
Right. Louise, we are going to have to finish there. But before we finish, was there anything else that you wanted to ask me that we haven't done or covered?
I absolutely just want to say thank you so much. This has been amazing. I have been looking forward to this ever since I booked the appointment. I knew it was going to be amazing, and it has been. And especially that massive breakthrough I had, I hope I can keep that with me. I can't wait to listen to this back, and I just want to say thank you, and I'm really grateful. And you're awesome.
Well, thank you. Likewise, it's been actually weirdly fun, which I know feels like a strange thing, but
No, I hear that.
but I love doing this anyway. But just to be able to do that and have some giggles along the way, and thank you so much for coming on, being open, honest, being reflective, and yeah, I guess as ever, all that remains to be said is take care. Bye.
Bye.